Good evening. Welcome to Unscripted. Thank you for joining us. We're going to bring in our chief meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix. Joe, I know some spots saw some blue skies a little bit today.
Yeah, it was not a bad day today. It was
Nice.
comfortable, a little cooler than yesterday, but we did have some blue sky. Although right now, though, Cody, we are clouding over, and not too far behind is a little bit of rain. I think the key word there, a little bit of rain. We're not going to get a whole lot tonight. So we'll take a look at that the rest of the week as well. And for the first time in a while, we actually have multiple chances for some rain, especially as we head toward the weekend. It's been fairly dry, so we'll dive into all that a little later.
Sounds good. Thank you, Joe. For our top story tonight, 10 years ago, Grand Traverse County had one of the highest incidence rates for breast cancer compared to other Michigan counties. Today, the most recent available data shows it's no longer one of the highest, but there's still a concern. Environmental factors could be impacting our health. Our Allie Baxter looked into this and has more.
There was concern from folks at Munson and the Cancer Center that they were hearing from their patients concern around pesticides and agriculture being potentially a reason for that.
Dr. Kelly Herko is a cancer epidemiologist, someone who looks for patterns and studies if those patterns point to the answer to people's why question.
Tried to get some grants funded to really be able to do a systematic research investigation into those high rates, and those grants were not funded.
Using existing data, 9 years ago, Dr. Herko looked at the residential addresses of breast cancer cases at Munson Medical Center in a year, then overlaid those cases on a map that highlights agricultural zone land within Grand Traverse County.
We saw some overlap in terms of a higher burden in areas of Old Mission Peninsula where we have a lot of agriculturally zoned land, but we also have a higher some areas with higher breast cancer burden. But then we had areas in the southern part of the county that had higher agricultural use but not high breast cancer.
She says her takeaways from her crude analysis weren't strong, but it's hard to have any strong messages when her numbers were small.
Well, why would Grand Traverse County have a high incidence if it's related to pesticides as compared to Leelanau County, right? Why would it only be Grand Traverse County when we have farming and these cherry orchards and vineyards in both settings?
Taking a look at public data today, Grand Traverse County is now 37th for highest incidence rates for breast cancer. But it doesn't mean the concern isn't there.
And warranted concern about rising rates of early onset breast cancer or younger onset breast cancer, which is typically defined as breast cancer diagnosed before the age of 50. It used to be very uncommon, and now those rates are rising.
As Dr. Herko explains, that's where investigation is needed into environmental factors, because a lot of known risk factors that influence breast cancer are specific to women who are postmenopausal.
A concern that I hear about in our community, that people are concerned about some of the potential environmental exposures.
As the concern is still there, Dr. Herko says she's still researching, even though that research can be slow and expensive.
When I put in the first grant to look at pesticides, a single water sample to test a panel of, I think it was 1,000 pesticides we wanted to test, or 100 pesticides, was over $1,000.
Although the data gathered may give a correlation, but not an explanation, it's one step closer to understanding why some women are being diagnosed with breast cancer.
There's always multiple factors that are leading to a cancer diagnosis, and it's difficult to pinpoint one or two reasons. But I understand that desire to know, what caused this.
In Grand Traverse County, Allie Baxter, UpNorthLive News.
Tomorrow, Grand Traverse County Commissioners will potentially approve a resolution that would honor the second Saturday in October as Check Your Cherries Day. Also tomorrow, you'll hear from the women who got together to make this happen and their push for more research into breast cancer. More tonight on PFAS chemical concerns in northern Michigan. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is in Grand Traverse County as community members take part in the Chemical Exposure Monitoring Program. This week, MDHHS is set up at the Peninsula Community Library, working to collect data on chemical levels, including lead and PFAS, in the blood and urine of residents. We're told the data collected will help MDHHS identify trends in chemical exposure and inform actions to reduce such exposure, such as creating programs, improving chemical use laws, and studying sources and health effects of chemical exposures. And that does lead us to our question of the day. It does have to do with this. Our question today is, have you tested your water? There's plenty of time to vote. You can vote on our Facebook page, Up North Live. You can vote on our website, UpNorthLive.com, or you can scan the QR code on your screen and go vote to make your voice heard. We'll check in on those results a little later on in the show. Moving on, a traffic alert to pass along tonight. Progress is being made on the reconstruction project on US 31 near Interlochen in Grand Traverse County. Take a look. A nearly 8-mile section of US 31 has reopened after the prep work for a full rebuild project to continue into next year. The project will include a roundabout at the intersection of South Long Lake Road and the J. Maddie Parkway. To talk a little bit more about this project, we're going to invite James Lake with MDOT on to the show. Thanks so much for joining us and spending some of your time with us today. I talked about the roundabout a little bit there, but what are some of the other features being added in this project?
Well, along this corridor, we're going to have a center left turn lane along the majority of it, which will introduce some protected turn lane possibilities for turning traffic while keeping that through traffic flowing. That should help with some of the backups that have occurred along this stretch. That and the roundabout are the main features, but we are rebuilding the roadway. So this 8-mile stretch, once we're done with it, should last for many decades and be in good shape.
Yeah, and I just mentioned how that area was closed for a lot of the prep work. For those who don't know, what happens during that prep work period, and why is it important to have that road closed during that time?
Sure. In 2025, earlier in the summer, we made improvements to the detour routes, the county roads that we've been using to detour traffic for the last month or so, also doing some tree trimming in preparation for the work. Then since the beginning of September, we've had traffic detour because we've been excavating significant amounts of unsuitable soil beneath the roadway and in the vicinity of 2 bridges in that corridor. Some of those excavations went down as deep as 15 feet, so we couldn't maintain traffic while that work was going on. We've also, during that time when traffic's been detoured, been temporarily widening sections of US 31, and that'll help us maintain traffic during next year's construction.
Yeah, and we know there is, that full rebuild project, and this was the prep work for that. Do we know somewhat of a timeline that you're able to tell us for that rebuild project going forward now?
Yes, beginning next spring, we're going to be working on the eastern roughly half of the project that includes that intersection, the roundabout at J. Maddie Parkway. We'll be doing that in the spring and into the summer, and then switching about midsummer, we'll be working on that western part and continuing through the fall. But then by the end of next fall, we should have that entire section, 8 miles or 7.8 miles, about $32 million project wrapped up.
Yeah, and what made this project necessary or maybe even exciting to do? You mentioned the features during this timeline.
Sure. Well, that underlying soil condition, it's not great for a roadbed, and over time, the road above it can deteriorate. So we're glad that we'll be able to get that soil out, build that roadbed up in a solid way. The road is many decades old, so it really needs to be rebuilt. It's reached the end of its service life. And then that intersection at J. Maddie Parkway, we've heard concerns over the years about traffic delays, turning movement difficulties, and then unfortunately some serious crashes. So introducing a roundabout here will help reduce all of those issues.
Yeah, and as things continue along, what would you like, whether it's this project or really any project, what are some of the things you'd like drivers to know?
Anytime we've got a detour set up, we encourage drivers to use that detour. We've made improvements on those county roads specifically to help make sure that traffic can move safely and efficiently. So we encourage them to do so during this prep work and the detour. And next year, we're going to have a detour as well. Westbound traffic is going to be maintained on US 31, while eastbound traffic is going to be detoured on county roads. Next year as well, we would like people to use that official detour route whenever possible.
Yeah, absolutely. James, before we let you go, is there anything else that you'd like people to know, whether it has to do with this project or things that MDOT's working on before you head out?
Absolutely. This time of year, we see a lot of construction zone fatigue from drivers. They're tired of waiting, being delayed. We understand that, but we're getting really close to the end of our construction season, about a month away now, and we can wrap up these major projects and get out of everybody's way. Looking forward to that as much as the drivers are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for spending some time and chatting with us. James Lake with MDOT there. Moving on, the semi-annual Mid-Michigan Honor Flight departed from Cherry Capital Airport in Traverse City this morning. The flight carries veterans and their guardians to Washington, D.C. to see memorials in their honor. Organizers say there's 76 veterans on this flight, including one World War II veteran. Due to the recent federal government shutdown, organizers say they had to shuffle some stops around.
We've had to revise our itinerary multiple times to be able to make a good flight for the honorees and for their guardians, and to be able to accommodate everything that's going on in Washington, D.C.
Veterans and guardians return tomorrow night. A welcome home ceremony is planned, and the community, including you, is invited to join. The flight lands a little before 9 p.m. Tonight, female veterans are protesting what they call disproportionate cuts to essential services in the state budget. They say losing that money kept them from holding their annual conference to connect veterans with resources they need. Carter Landis is in Lansing tonight looking for answers on why this funding was taken away.
Female veterans hoping to have their voices heard by state lawmakers at the Capitol. After their annual conference was canceled, they want to remind them that they're not invisible. Michigan's female veterans are doing what they can to avoid being forgotten by lawmakers. Organizers of Tuesday's rally at the state capitol say they've now lost vital funding for a group that already faces unique challenges.
We have given too much, and our lawmakers need to understand that. You cut money from somewhere else. Don't take money from veterans.
Several veterans sharing their stories on the Capitol steps about why the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency's Women's Veterans Conference, which was canceled with only a week's notice, was important to them. They say the conference gave them a sense of community and allowed them to feel seen.
The conference was helping some of our homeless female veterans come out their building, come out their homes, and be united and come and visit and learn about other benefits and to work with other female veterans.
Most of us would not be alive today without things like this. This conference is what keeps our community alive and safe, and taking that away from us is a slap in the face.
Organizers say the budget also cut funding for the hotline, which helps people apply for veteran-focused grants, grant money to combat veteran homelessness, and the Michigan Veterans Coalition Service Officer Program. We reached out to lawmakers asking them why was the annual conference canceled and why were these services not included in this year's state budget. We have yet to receive a response. And although their conference was canceled, there will still be events in the Grand Rapids area where female veterans can gather and learn about resources available to them. In Lansing, I'm Carter Landis.
Well, it was a cooler day outside today. When we get back from a quick break, we'll check in with our chief meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix, to see what the rest of our work week looks like. Keep it here.
I'm Jada Johnson from Big Boys TV, and the Fish and Game Report is sponsored by Johnson's Propane.
Welcome back to Unscripted. A pretty nice day today, but as we bring in our chief meteorologist, Joe Charlevoix, earlier in the show you saying some and emphasized some rain on the way?
Yeah, a little bit tonight. It's not going to really measure into a whole lot, but we'll see a little rain in a couple spots tonight. We'll show you where in a minute. And then pretty nice day coming up tomorrow and Thursday.
Okay.
So we'll have more blue sky coming up here. Let's take a look at our UpNorthLive Skyview drone. Dan, our drone operator, out today. This was in downtown Traverse City. Interesting look. You know, it's funny how some trees are completely orange and then the one right next to it's like green still. That was the view there. We're certainly seeing a good amount of fall color now around northern Michigan. And we did have, yeah, you see in the sky there, a little bit of blue sky in some spots, including there earlier around Traverse City. You might have noticed it today. It's not cold, but it was cooler. This is the 24-hour temperature change from what it was at this time last night. So, for instance, we'll go to Boyne Falls. It's 14 degrees cooler than it was at this time last night. We've shaved 13 degrees off the temperature there at Traverse City, also Newberry and Sault Ste. Marie. So a little cooler. And the reason for that is because there's a cold front that passed through. And you can see where that is now from near Toronto, right around Detroit. And then that extends back to low pressure and a warm front out in the northern plains. North of that warm front, that red line, there is some rain in Iowa and Minnesota and parts of Wisconsin tonight. You can see that right here. There's a look at what we've had going on. Not a lot. We had a brief shower. There it is, right there, a little earlier today. That kind of fell apart as it worked inland. But off to the west, there is a fair amount of rain here. I'm zooming in. You can kind of see that for much of Wisconsin. This looks impressive, like, oh my gosh, we're going to get all this rain tonight. But this is very light. And we have a north wind kind of eating at the northern edge of this, so I don't think there's going to be much rain, you know, north of a Petoskey Alpena line. So this is how that looks. There's 2 a.m. The other thing with this rain, it's going to be in the middle of the night tonight, most of this. So a lot of us will be sleeping when this passes by, and by the time we wake up tomorrow morning, there's 7:15, the rain will be over with. For our southern counties, at least where that rain is expected to fall. A lot of cloud cover in the morning, and then watch what happens to the clouds. Yeah, there they go. And by tomorrow afternoon, we should get lots of sun in here. So, you wake up tomorrow morning, open up the blinds, it'll be kind of cloudy. And then we'll get some sunshine in here a little later in the day into the afternoon hours. And then let's take a look beyond tomorrow. There's Thursday. Lots of sunshine in the morning, and then a warm front approaches in late day. Could see a couple showers up in the eastern UP, and then see some of this rain. This is Thursday night into Friday morning. A little bit of rain right there. We could also see some rain as we get into the, well, you know what, before I show the weekend forecast, here's the rain tonight, just to show you. The green shaded areas maybe up to 1/10 of an inch of rain. There's the weekend. And Saturday, yeah, there is the chance for some rain, especially west. Highs in the 60s. Sunday, kind of cloudy. Temperature Sunday falling back into the 50s. And there's the extended forecast. A little wet Friday, Cody, maybe part of the weekend as well. Temperatures generally 50s and 60s over the course of the next week here.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Joe. We're going to take another quick break. When we get back, we'll check in with our sports director, Harrison Beebe. Stay with us. Welcome back to Unscripted. High school soccer is heating up. To talk a little bit more about that, we're going to bring in our sports director, Harrison Beebe. Harrison.
Yeah, Cody, we need some of that heat because I'm not going to lie. I wore a dress shirt basically to the game this afternoon. It was a little chilly there.
Yeah,
it felt like a cold mid-50s October afternoon, which is appropriate because after all, this is the month where those temperatures do start to noticeably dip. And we get those fall sports really bundle up. So yeah, we caught the Gaylord Traverse City St. Francis district semifinal is in Division 2 this afternoon. And I've seen St. Francis play a couple times this year. They were looking pretty good, but Gaylord punched in 2 goals early to take a 2-0 halftime lead. Still haven't heard the final score from that one. It started about 4:30, but we will get you the final score of that one and all the other scores from district games tonight during sports at 11. But while we're here, I wanted to touch base on some of the games I covered yesterday. There's an exciting doubleheader that's going. Sorry, I have video of it, but apparently the guys in the back pulled the video a little early. We had a great doubleheader going on with Glen Lake and Sutton's Bay and Leland and McBain NMC yesterday, and that led to a Glen Lake-Leland rematch. They were both Northwest Conference champions, so we're going to see that rematch again because they each won 1 game in the regular season, but the winner will get the bragging rights tomorrow because that team will get the district championship trophy, and that's inner Leelanau County rivalry, so it should be exciting to see who pulls out the victory in that one.
All right, interesting. Sounds good. And then the other kind of football, I know you talked about it in one of our earlier shows, Michigan going all the way out to the West Coast to play USC. And then coming off of that one, that's a tough one to come off of and bounce back from.
Yeah, it was a rough weekend altogether for Michigan-based sports, as everybody remember, with the Lions losing, the Tigers losing, and then Michigan suffering that tough loss to USC. And Michigan State probably had the worst loss of the whole weekend to UCLA. We'll have more on the Spartans tomorrow. But yeah, Michigan in an interesting spot for the year. They're 4-2, so they're pretty likely heading to a bowl game at the very least, but their chances of making the playoff have taken a little more of a hit. Having said that, they got that biggie with Ohio State down at the end of the season. If they can knock them off on Thanksgiving weekend, I think that would reignite a lot of arguments and improvements for Michigan's season. So we'll see if they can win a 5th in a row in that series. But we'll talk more about that in a month and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. Thank you, Harrison. We're going to take our final break of the show. When we get back, we're going to talk about our question of the day. There's still time to vote on our Facebook page and our website, UpNorthLive.com. Go vote, make your voice heard. We'll look at those results after the break.
Salon services are furnished by Epiphany Advanced Academy in East Acme.
Welcome back to Unscripted. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is in Grand Traverse County as community members take part in the Chemical Exposure Monitoring Program. This week, MDHHS is set up at the Peninsula Community Library, working to collect data on chemical levels, including lead and PFAS in the blood and urine of residents. So that led us to ask our question of the day today, which is, have you tested your water as of right now? The top vote getter is not at all at 45%, once is at 33%, and several times 21% of people voted for that one. Thank you for voting if you did, and thank you for joining us on Unscripted. Have a great night.